What's up, guys? Clint Coons here, and in this video, we're going to talk about something that I didn't even know about until a client reached out to me, and that is called tiny houses and short-term rentals. How to structure that type of deal. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what is a tiny house and a short-term rental, and how does that all play together? Well, what I was surprised to learn about is that let's assume that you have a piece of property right here, and your main house sits on the property like this. And you decide you want to take advantage of Airbnb, short-term rentals, but you don't want people coming into your main house. I get it. So what do you do then? Well, you build a small structure over here on the back side of your property, and this becomes your short-term rental. Now, the reason we call it a tiny house is because that's what it is. It's maybe 600 square feet property that's really decked out. It's really nice, and people want to stay there because it's in a desirable location, walking distance to sites and things like that. So the question that came up is, hey, if I'm going to set up a structure like this where I'm going to put a short-term rental on my property, one of these tiny houses, how do I go about protecting myself? Because obviously you're going to have a lot of people coming in and out of this property. Average rental 7 days or less. I've got some great videos on that. If you're into short-term rentals, be sure to check those out on my channel. I'll put some links in the show notes about short-term rentals from the tax side that you should watch if you're into this type of strategy. Now, in this scenario here, you got these people coming in and out, and if something happens on the property, let's say that you had a pool on your property over here. But here's the deal. You tell the short-term rental tenants the pool is off limits. We're not allowing you to use the pool, so please don't go that way. Maybe you have it fenced in, but you never know. One night, this person right here has these friends over, and they're drunk, and they jump the fence and then dive into the short end of the pool, and one of them now hits his head, and he becomes a quadriplegic. Far-fetched? Actually, it's not. One of my fraternity brothers, that in fact happened to him, but it would happen to be at a hotel, climbed the fence, drunk, and he became a quadriplegic. So, liability can exist here. So what can you do to protect yourself? Now, a lot of people might say just jack up the insurance. Not a bad idea to carry a little extra insurance there. But the key is, how do we use an entity to protect ourselves in this situation? Because it's all on one tax parcel. Well, the key here is to separate out this section. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to go down to the planning department and say, I want to subdivide off this portion of my property, get a different tax parcel number for it, because it's going to be zoned in such a way where you maybe cannot break this up. That would be the ideal way. Try to break the property up, but you probably can't because you're sharing, water and sewer or septic, depending on where you're at. So then the question is, I want to isolate this. So what you might consider doing is creating a limited liability company down here. Set up an LLC and then deed this property into the LLC. Now, it's coming in as one parcel number, okay, the whole property. But so I would create it as a tenant in common relationship with myself, or if you watch some of my other videos, what you may want to do here is have your portion held in a land trust here for anonymity purposes. So we got this property now on title would show that there's two owners. There's a limited liability company, and there's your land trust over here that's holding your portion of it. So you have anonymity. So if somebody looked at title right here, they wouldn't know that you own this property because you can structure it in such a way that you have the anonymity through these entities. Now, let's say we're going to do that. One of the other things you should look at as well, contact the planning department and try to get a second address, okay, for this property. Now, what could that mean? Well, let's say that this property, the address is 732 Broadway. Maybe you call that 732 and a half Broadway, or 732 Suite A Broadway, or Dash A. Any way you can to differentiate this address from your primary address. That is key. All right, so get that done first, then look at this structure. And so then when you deed the property in to this structure, what you're going to do here is you're going to put a notation down in the bottom of the deed that this LLC owns this property right here. And on this side, you're going to do the same thing, that this trust owns everything but that property right there. It's through a parenthetical notation in the bottom of the deed, which would put anyone on notice if they were coming after you that, hey, if you're going to sue because you're injured on this, it goes to this limited liability company. It is the owner. Now, this also implies that when you're dealing with the tenants, you're dealing with them through the limited liability company, that all money and insurance for this portion of the property runs to that limited liability company and not to you personally. Because you can really screw all this up, right? Muck it up when you're just having the money paid to yourself, paid to your trust, or paid somewhere else, and that LLC is there in name only. It actually has to function like the property owner. So any insurance, pay its portion of the utilities and things of that nature. So it is someone who's coming in. I mean, just treat it as if you wanted to bring someone in and rent this on a full-time basis. What would you ask them to pay? That's what the LLC should be picking up. So tiny houses, it can be done. Obviously, the best way would be to separate it out, but obviously you may not be able to do that. Go in after you build it, get that second address. Now, of course, some people like to put a tiny house on their property. They don't get the permitting for it. And if you go in to get an address, well, you're going to get caught on that, of course, and that's going to be an issue for you. So if you're one of those who not going through the permitting process, you're just throwing up on your property, well, maybe this strategy isn't for you because you're trying to fly under the radar screen. But for you legit investors, that's the way I would take it. Hey guys, be sure to hit the like button if you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you'll get notified of all my upcoming videos as they're released. Take care.